Imagine this, you're deep in sleep, the world outside silent and still, when suddenly, a sharp, insistent knock slices through the darkness. Your mind races, torn from dreams to a reality that feels both familiar and suddenly threatening. What would you do if, in the dead of night, someone or something demanded your attention from the other side of your door? It's 3:15 a.m., the hour when the world is at its quietest, and your heart pounds so loudly, you wonder if whoever's outside can hear it too. Every shadow in your room seems to stretch and shift, and the silence that follows the knock is almost as terrifying as the sound itself. Do you dare to open the door, risking the unknown, or do you hide, holding your breath, hoping that whatever is out there will simply go away? The choice feels impossible, and every second drags on, heavy with dread. This isn't just a thought experiment or a scene from a movie, it happened to Daniel, a man who prided himself on his logic, his routines, and his unshakable belief in the ordinary. Daniel's life was the picture of normalcy, deadlines to meet, coffee brewing late into the night, and quiet evenings spent in the safety of his suburban home. He never expected anything out of the ordinary to happen to him. He was a man of facts, not fantasies. Ghost stories were for children, and the supernatural belonged in books and movies, not in his carefully ordered world. But that sense of security, that illusion of control, was about to be shattered in a single, unforgettable moment. Daniel's house was as unremarkable as his life, until the knocking began. Suddenly, the familiar became strange, and the safe became sinister. Sometimes the supernatural doesn't wait for you to seek it out. Sometimes it comes knocking, uninvited, forcing you to confront the unknown whether you're ready or not. For Daniel, a simple sound in the night would unravel everything he thought he knew about the world, and about himself. The boundaries between reality and the unexplained began to blur. This is the story of how one man's carefully constructed reality was invaded by the unexplainable, and how a single moment can change everything you believe. So, when the knocking comes for you, what will you do? Will you answer? Or will you hide from the question that may never be answered? The first time, Daniel thought he was dreaming. 3 sharp knocks at 3:15 a.m. The sound was so distinct it jolted him awake. He checked the door. Nothing. No one was there. The street was empty, silent. Not a soul in sight. He tried to dismiss it, but the next night, it happened again. Same time. Same 3 knocks. Fear crept in. He couldn't ignore it anymore. He stayed in bed, frozen, listening to the silence that followed. His heart pounded in his chest. Night after night, the knocking returned, always at 3:15. Daniel's routine crumbled. He was losing sleep and his mind was fraying. He dreaded the darkness, clutching a baseball bat, but fear kept him rooted. He never caught anyone. The knocks were relentless. No footsteps, no pranksters, just the relentless, punctual knocking. It was as if the night itself was mocking him. His logical world was unraveling. He couldn't explain it, and that terrified him more than anything. He knew he had to find out what was tormenting him. He couldn't live like this anymore. The knocks were no longer just a nuisance, they were a threat to his sanity. Each night the fear grew stronger. Daniel was trapped in a nightly ritual of fear. He felt like a prisoner in his own home. The silence after each knock was worse than the sound itself. It was deafening, suffocating. He realized this was no ordinary intruder, this was something far more sinister. Something was coming for him and it wasn't going away. He had to act. He had to confront whatever was out there before it consumed him completely. Exhaustion weighed Daniel down. His home felt haunted, not safe. He tried everything, waiting in darkness, watching from his car, setting alarms. Still, the knocks came, and he never saw anyone. He sprinkled flour on the doormat, hoping for footprints. At 3:15, the knock echoed. He rushed to the door. The flour was untouched. No prints, no sign of a visitor. Neighbors heard nothing. Daniel questioned his sanity, but the sound was too real. This wasn't a prank. No evidence, no mistakes, just impossibility. The knocking was a message from something beyond reason. Daniel, the skeptic, was forced to consider the paranormal. The fear was now pure and undiluted. He was being haunted by something that left no trace, and it wanted him to know it was there. Desperate, Daniel installed a security camera with night vision. He watched the live feed, waiting for proof. At 3:15 a.m. the knocks came, loud and clear. The porch was empty on the screen. Reviewing the footage, he saw a flicker. A pale girl, no older than 10, in an old-fashioned dress. She knocked 3 times, then vanished. Daniel replayed the clip, heart pounding. The image was undeniable. The source of his torment was a ghostly child. Every rational explanation crumbled. He wasn't being pranked, he was being haunted. The fear deepened. This was no longer about logic. The ghost was real, and she was a child. Daniel's world was forever changed. He needed answers. Who was she? Why his door? The haunting had a face. With video evidence in hand, Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. The footage was unsettling, showing fleeting shadows and inexplicable movements. It was clear that something was amiss. Determined to uncover the truth, Daniel searched for answers in local history. He spent countless hours in the dimly lit library, poring over old books and sifting through dusty archives. His persistence paid off when he found an old newspaper article that caught his eye. The article detailed the mysterious disappearance of a girl named Lily, who vanished from his street in 1987. The black and white photograph of her was haunting. She disappeared one rainy night, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and broken hearts. A neighbor reported faint knocking at 3:15 a.m. on the night she vanished. The pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. The ghostly girl in the footage was Lily, lost and seeking help from beyond the grave. Her spirit was trapped, doomed to repeat her final desperate act every night. The knocking wasn't a threat, it was a plea for help, a cry for someone to finally listen. Daniel realized that ignoring her was repeating the past, condemning her to an eternity of sorrow. He couldn't let it continue. He had to take action, to break the cycle of despair. He had to face her, to confront the past, and bring peace to her restless spirit. The haunting was a tragedy, not a terror. It was a story of a young girl lost and forgotten. Daniel felt a duty to answer the knock, to acknowledge her presence and her pain. He prepared for a confrontation, not with a monster, but with a lost soul in need of closure. With a deep breath, he was ready to open the door and face whatever lay beyond. That night, Daniel waited by the door, determined to acknowledge Lily. At 3:15 the knock came, softer, almost pleading. He opened the door. There she was, pale, translucent, eyes full of ancient sadness. She looked at him, lips moving in a silent whisper. He leaned in, desperate to hear her message. Only cold and sorrow filled the air. Her form flickered, fading with a final, mournful gaze. Then she was gone. The porch was empty, the weight lifted. Daniel felt closure. He had broken the loop. The nightly visit stopped. He hoped he'd given her peace. The next morning, Daniel reviewed the security footage. At 3:15 the video showed only him, alone, opening the door to nothing. The earlier footage of Lily was gone, corrupted. All evidence had vanished. Was it all in his head, or had something erased the proof? The knocking had stopped, but uncertainty remained. Did he free a lost soul, or invite something in? Daniel would never know for sure. The story ends with a question. If you hear a knock at 3:15 a.m., would you open the door? What would you do?